get this sports podcast party started, all right?
The J-Reels Podcast.
Why don't you wait until July 1st to make an announcement? What a disgrace. He can rack up all these numbers in October, November, and December, but what really counts is let me see this in January.
The sports rebel without a pause, delivering fast-paced, jam-packed sports talk like no other.
Listen, I gotta call it as I see it. He is not a good player. I'm sick and tired of having to deal with the disappointment of this franchise. When does it stop? And yes, another winter that I can sleep in peace. Coming correct, directed, in full effect. Let's get it.
This is the J-Reels Podcast. Welcome aboard.
What is happening, my good people? Greetings. How are you? How's it going? How's everybody doing out there? What is the latest and greatest? Hope everybody's doing well, feeling fantastic, in excellent spirits as we get through the dog days of August. And yes, I know football fans are just dying for whether college or NFL because all we got right now in these parts is baseball, but there is still a couple other things I want to unpack, and you're going to come here to listen to it all as this is the J-Reels Podcast with Joe J-Reels. For my first-timers, welcome aboard. And for those who've been banging with me going back to the very beginning, somewhere in the middle, even as early as this past Monday, I welcome you guys and gals back. And there is quite a bit that I want to get into on a couple of different fronts other than the baseball. Yeah, there's some NFL stuff I want to get to. The NBA, this Laker mess, I think it's going to go from bad to worse. On top of Sophie's choice, as I'm calling it now, the WNBA with Sophie Cunningham trying to get the commissioner out. I also want to throw my 2 cents in on that. But I have to start off with the baseball and what we've got going in the American League right now, especially when it comes to the wild card. I don't think I've seen anything like it as long as I've watched baseball. It's almost unfathomable to think that you have teams that are fighting for one spot. Now, we have seen that in both leagues where we'll have 3, 4, 5 teams trying to overtake one another to get whether it's that final spot or even the 5th seed in the American or National League. And it comes down to the wire, or you have a scenario where teams drop off, they fall back to the pack, and then it becomes, let's say, instead of 5 teams for 2 spots, it'll be 3 teams for 1 spot, and then it comes down to the final day, as we've seen. Do I need to go back to last year, Mets-Reds, where all the Mets needed to do was win since the Reds lost, but because the Mets lost and the Reds lost, they backed into the playoffs. So you have all those different types of scenarios. But with the American League this year, it's weird because the only way I could break it down as of right this very moment, and I understand it's August 20th. It's not September 20th, and it sure isn't the final weekend upcoming of the Major League Baseball season. When you think about it, the final day is 5 weeks from this Sunday. Think about that. So we could talk about, oh, we still have another month and change. Oh, we still have plenty of baseball to be played, which is true. But when we get to Sunday night, and certainly on the next podcast Monday, yeah, we're going to be now less than 5 weeks away from closing out the 2026 season. And the only way that I could put forth this particular segment here as I try to dissect it, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly of the AL wildcard race. And the good, let's break it down. 7 teams for 1 spot. And you would think right then and there, even if it's a thing where, let's say this time next month, you got 4 teams for the 1 spot. Still pretty good, right? Still a race where it's going to be determined, you would think, not only going into the last week of the season, maybe the final weekend, and maybe come down to the final day, similar to what we got last year with Mets and Reds. But even though, and we would think that it's probably going to be this way until the end, and I'll explain why in a moment, that'll be the bad part. When you have a scenario, when you get a bunch of teams involved, and you know from one day to the next, one team could leapfrog another. Next thing you know, a 2-game losing streak puts them out and another team in. And this is what could be very enthralling for the American League wild card. Well, the National League is a different story, and we'll talk about the National League in a little bit. So that's the good part. Knowing that you have, count them on two hands, more than a half dozen teams as of right this very second, and they're only separated, which is even the more crazy thing, because we can talk about the 7 teams for the one spot, all we want. But when it really boils down to is that the 7 teams that are separated in that wild card race for the 6th seed, that final spot, one last time, it all comes down to 2.5 games. And I don't know if you could ever have, something's going on here. Is there a fly? And am I, oh, I see it. Sorry for the pause. Yeah, it was a bug. Yep, what is that? Yeah, there was. Sorry for the interruption there. For those especially listening on Apple and Spotify, there was a bug floating around. So, of course, the puppy was able to track it down. And therefore, this is what happens when you have a live podcast or live broadcast, so to speak. So now I got to take this is a mess. Anyway. So one more time, 2.5 games separated by 7 teams, and chances are I may go down to the wire. That's the good. The bad part about that is with the 7 teams, and I understand from one day to the next it could shift. Pretty much that's what it's going to be like, I would think, here for the remainder of the season. But the bad part is we know that there's going to be a team that's going to drift here. Or 2. 7 teams, you think it's going to come down to the final weekend? These teams are going to have to play one another at some point, especially when you have the Twins, the Guardians, and the Tigers involved, which one of those 3 teams are going to knock each other out. And then you have the Mariners and the Texas Rangers. You got throwing the Astros there too because they're ahead in the division, but it's not as if they have a sizable lead. And you would think that Seattle, Houston, which they just played this past weekend, where Seattle won 2 of the games, they're going to knock each other out, and therefore one of those teams are going to drop off. So now it's going to lead to, I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 teams when it's all said and done. And listen, that's still pretty good when you think about it. But here's the bad, on top of what I just mentioned. The bad part is that these teams aren't any good. You know, it's not as if you have a scenario where teams that are fighting it out here down the stretch are whatever, 8, 10, 12 games over 500. That is not the case. All these teams that are involved here for this playoff spot, they're at least 2 games under 500. As the Twins currently have the final playoff spot in the American League wildcard race, and they're 63 and 65. And mind you, they just finished sweeping the Atlanta Braves. So they were 5 under at the start of the week, and now I don't even want to say they're respectable. They're still below 500. So that's the bad part of this thing, because we could talk about these 7 teams right now and, this is going to be a fight to the finish and the Battle Royale, as I call it, or Royal Rumble, whatever you want to say. But these teams aren't any good. And really, are you going to believe in any of these teams once the playoffs or at least the wild card round begins? You're going to believe in the Twins? You're going to believe in the Mariners, as awful as they've played? You're going to believe even in the Tigers when they traded 2/5 of their starting rotation at the deadline? All right, the Guardians have a little bit of a track record, but are they going to click in that 3-game series where they got to play on the road? Most likely right now against the Houston Astros. None of these teams are really going to have the utmost faith. Even the Blue Jays. And the Blue Jays are the defending AL champions. And they haven't gotten their season on track, although they're right in the thick of things. And maybe, who knows, once the calendar turns to October and they realize, we're in the playoffs, we made it. Let's try to build off of what happened last year. Not to say they're going to get back to a World Series, but at least they know what it takes to win. Now, they have that to hang their hat on, but is anybody going to believe that the Jays are going to all of a sudden flick the switch and next thing you know, they're going to be in the League Championship Series? I don't. So that's the bad part of this. So the good, all the teams involved. The bad, they're not good teams. But here's the ugly part of it. The ugly part of it is that when it's all said and done, and I said this yesterday on the live stream every Wednesday, 12 noon, the ugly is, for the first time in Major League Baseball history, and this is a prediction, there's going to be a team under 500 that's going to make the playoffs. No, not at 500. I don't think there's going to be any one of those 7 teams that are going to end up being 81 and 81. It's going to be 82 and 80 or below. I don't think it's going to be that far below. I think at worst, you may see 78 and 84, but even that's going to be a bit of a stretch. I think you're going to get 79 will probably be the worst. And again, it's only 2 scenarios. Either going to be 80 and 82 or 79 and 83. And you're not going to have a team that's going to be 74 and 88 that's going to make the postseason. Now, who knows? With the way this race is going, would you be surprised if that's going to be the case? Imagine that. A team 14 games on the 500, they're going to make the playoffs? No. That would be just an abomination. But this is also what we're dealing with here when you're monitoring this race here down the stretch and over the last 5 plus weeks of the season. And I'm going to be riveted. I'm going to be fascinated. But the sad part is that they're going to qualify for the playoffs, one of these teams. And do you have any belief in them? Now, the crazy thing is they're going to be playing the Astros, at least as of right this very moment. That could change, as you know. Who knows? Watch Seattle get hot, or the Rangers all of a sudden, they go on a run. But the Astros I don't trust 100% either. So if Baltimore went to Houston, or if Minnesota went to Houston, or Toronto, pick a team. The Astros have been awful in their building in the playoffs. As evidenced by losing, think about this, people. They have lost their last 7 straight games in their building in the postseason. I mean, that's hard to fathom. Remember, they lost the one playoff game to the Minnesota Twins in that series where Twins, Astros, they lost the back end of that series. And I believe they won a game 5 in Minnesota. I got to double check that, but I believe they lost that game. And then I take that back. If my math serves me correctly, hold on a second. I could have sworn it was 7 in a row. But anyway, let's start here. In 2024, they lost 4 straight, or 2023, they lost 4 straight to the Texas Rangers in their building. Remember, they had the home field in the LCS. Then the following year, in 24, they lost the 2 games to the Tigers in the wild card. That's 6. And I believe in the series prior to the Astro series, prior to the series against the Texas Rangers, I believe they lost. That's right. They won that series against the Twins in 4 games. They lost game 2 to the Twins before winning games 3 and 4 in Minnesota for them to advance to play the Texas Rangers in the League Championship Series there in 2023. So they lost game 2 at home to Minnesota. They lost the 4 games in their building to the Texas Rangers. Because remember, they won the 3 games in the middle, which included the Jose Altuve dramatic home run in the 9th inning in game 5 when they took a 3-2 series lead, and then they gagged it, the 2 games in their building, for a shot to go to a World Series. And then they lost the 2 games in 24 to the Tigers in the wild card round. So they've lost 7 straight. Now, people can say, well, Jay Reels, come on, you're talking about series that happened years ago, whatever. All right, fine, but are the Astros world beaters now all of a sudden? That you're going to think, oh, well, if they're going to play in the opening round against pick one of those 7 teams, that right away they're going to harken back to the halcyon days of 2017 to 2022 when they won 4 pennants and made it to 4 World Series and won 2 of them. All of a sudden you're going to start thinking that? I won't. So that's where the ugly comes in. And let me pivot to this, because let's make from ugly to uglier, which has nothing to do with the pennant race, but it has to do with a team in the pennant race. And if you didn't watch last night, Yankees in Baltimore, game 2 of that 3-game series, in the bottom of the 7th inning, with the game tied at 3, Pete Alonso comes up. Way to go, David Stearns. And Steve Cohen, let me not even go there. Pete Alonso comes up bottom of the 7th, and he hits a towering shot down the left field line. Looks like it's going to go foul. It's called a foul ball by the umps. They go to the replay, which is automatic. Anything that's a home run, they're going to review. And based on the replay, you're thinking, oh, geez, that ball was fair, maybe about 2 feet. They called it foul. What the hell are they watching? So they call it foul. Game still tied at 3. And then in the top of the 8th, the Yankees score 2 runs to take the lead. And then they end up winning the game 5-3. Now, who knows? If they go up 4-3, inning extends. Those are the Orioles. They go on another rally. They score a couple more runs. Obviously, we'll never know that. But for baseball to flub that, I mean, who is monitoring that play in New York or Secaucus or wherever the Major League Baseball headquarters is when it comes to them reviewing that home run call? I mean, that was, sorry to say this, but a blind man could have seen that play. That ball was fair easily by 2 feet. And doesn't have to be conclusive. That was conclusive in my eyes. And even Alonso, you could tell, and obviously all the Orioles, they were miffed and had every right to destroy the replay. And I mean, it was just brutal. But here's the thing. Why baseball looks bad. Orioles in the thick of the race, and we'll go through the standings in a moment. But what if that was in a playoff game? What if that was game 4 where they were down 2-1 and they ended up losing that game? Or worse, game 5 or game 7? What's baseball going to say then? Oops, sorry. Isn't a replay there to overturn calls like that? And to me, and that was egregious. That wasn't one of those like, oh, yeah, it went over the pole, but I don't know. It's so close, whatever. But again, it has to be conclusive evidence. Or in this case, inconclusive to be like, you know what? That ball is obviously foul. Or, you know what? It was hooking there toward the end. I'm going to say it's foul with the naked eye. No, they just said, ruling on the field stands. It's a foul ball. If I was Alonso in that at bat, and I understand you got to be professional, whatever, but I would have gotten thrown out of the game. I'd be like, how do you miss that? Even Alonso, when he got to first base, he was like, what? What are you talking about? Cheers, H2O, for those watching on live right here on YouTube. And for those on Apple and Spotify, I'm drinking water. It's almost as if baseball, not to say they want to purposely screw things up, but knowing that there's a collective bargaining agreement, you have this crazy AL wildcard race. Who knows, when it's all said and done, you may have Brewers Rays in a World Series, which will have the players union standing on their soapboxes thinking that, oh yeah, you want to have a ceiling, a salary cap, and the small market teams can't win? Well, look who's in the World Series. I mean, this is becoming almost a imperfect storm for Major League Baseball right now. And they're lucky that this happened last night with this home run call. Because if this was a situation where this was, let's say this was the next to last game of the weekend and the Orioles lost that game, and that could have been the game that they lost in order for them to be out of the playoffs. Or if this happened in a playoff game or World Series. Major League Baseball, I don't know what you were watching there last night, but that is just beyond brutal. It's inexcusable. And I'm sure Major League Baseball, they're going to have to come out and with an apology today, as if what's that going to do for the Orioles? Obviously nothing. But they're going to have to say, hey, we got to make sure that we have every angle. And even Alonso said in the postgame how maybe similar to the NFL with the pylons, the cones in the end zone where they have the cameras, maybe to have something with the foul pole. Now, it's going to be tricky because you're going to have it where it's pointing up. And maybe they could put something at the very top of the foul pole where there's a camera there, and it'll give you a better idea. Now, they're going to have such a wide angle because it's going to have to cover a lot of ground. Because what if you don't see it in the shot? You don't know if it's fair foul, but if you have it wide enough to where you could actually see the trajectory of the ball go either left or right, depending on if it's the left field foul pole, the right field foul pole. I mean, maybe they need to start doing that. But to me, that call's a no-brainer. How do they screw that up? Just brutal. There's no other way to put it. And I'll get to everybody's comments. I see the comments starting to pile up there. But Major League Baseball not only had a bad night, and I'm sure they're getting destroyed this morning. I don't know which channels or podcasts are talking about it. I'm sure a lot of them want to talk about the preseason games tonight on ESPN between the Raiders and Texans. I mean, seriously? They want to know more about Fernando Mendoza than a 3-3 game with the Orioles fighting with 6 other teams. But no, that's not going to move the needle. They'd rather talk about Fernando Mendoza. Not on this podcast. Sorry. But for the American League wildcard race, that's what you got. And it's almost a thing where literally from one day to the next, teams are just passing the baton. As I called it before, and I'll say it again, it's hot potato. One day it's the Rangers. No, we can't handle this. Go ahead. Oh, Baltimore Orioles got it. Oh, wait. No. You know what? Minnesota Twins, you got it. Oh, now the Twins have it. Tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up, and it's going to be another team. And here's the American League wildcard race as it stands. Minnesota, 63-65. Thanks to their 3-game win streak against the Braves. We'll face off, and we'll go through the schedule in a moment. But the Rangers, 62-65, a half game back. Toronto, 62-66, a game back. Cleveland, 61-66, game and a half back. And that also includes Baltimore and Detroit with the same record, also a game and a half back. And then the Mariners, 2.5 back, but 2 in the loss. And the Mariners are 7 under 500. Now, think about that. And as I'm looking at the standings, there's no way I'm putting the Royals in there. But the Royals have won 4 in a row. They are 9 back. Now, there's no way. They're not going to leapfrog all those teams. I don't care if Kansas City goes on one of those Colorado Rocky runs at the end of, the 2007 season when they won, I believe, like 21 of 22 or whatever it was. That includes the postseason, but they're 9 back, and they've won 4 in a row. They are 20 games under 500. So, please, people getting Kansas City could be like, hey, you never know. Huh? Stop. Now, the National League, the wild card, I'm going to put it this way. I think when it's all said and done, what we're looking at here, it's going to be, I would think, 2 teams for 1 spot. Marlins got swept in Philly, and now they come home. They're at 500. I'm not saying this is the beginning of the end for them, but I don't know how much they're going to be able to hang in this race. And mind you, this team had a 12-game losing streak right before the All-Star break, and then about 8 or 9 days after the break. So even if they just went 500 during that stretch, they'd be right there. And if you're Clayton McCullough, the manager of the team, you got to be saying to yourself, guys, we're 4 games back. We're still in this race. But even if we went 500, or let's say they went 5-7, they'd still be right there. Who knows? They may even be in the lead. But I think when it's going to boil down to, it's going to be 3 teams for the 2 spots. Right now with the Phillies sweep and the Padres lost 2 out of 3 to the Mets, the Phillies have a 2-game lead on the Padres for the 5th seed in the National League. And then the Padres have the last spot, and then the Diamondbacks are 1 back of the Padres. Now, I'm sure the Diamondbacks and Padres, they probably meet up at least one more time throughout the remainder of the schedule. I'm going to take a quick look now. I know they played, a couple weeks ago? And they split a 4-game series. Watch them play the final series of the year. They do. Arizona at San Diego. That's when they'll play again. And just looking at this here, they have maybe it's not so favorable schedule, Arizona. Yeah, Arizona has a very tricky month. They got the Cubs, Phillies, Houston for the next 6 series. And then after that, it's Kansas City, Texas, Miami, the Yankees, at Colorado, and then at San Diego. And we'll look at the San Diego schedule down the road. But I think that's what it's going to boil to. And the Cardinals, I don't think they're going to be fit. I could see them trailing off here. Now they're 3 back as we speak. But I think the Marlins and Cardinals, I think they'll just slowly but surely drift away. And I think it's going to boil down to Phillies, Padres, and Diamondbacks. Now, who knows? The Phillies have now won 6 in a row. Is this the point where they start to take off and put some distance between them and the Padres? And then you're going to have, technically, I know 4 teams for the 1 spot if you're going to include the Cardinals and Marlins. But I'm going to say no. I think it'll be Diamondbacks, Padres. And listen, if it comes down to that final weekend, now the Diamondbacks would have to be, or Padres, depending on how it shakes down. I would want to see them 1 back going into that final weekend. I don't want to see them 3 back where they have to sweep, and then it comes down to tiebreaker. I don't even want it 2 games, because 2 games, that means either one of those teams have to sweep to get in. You want it 1 game, because if it's 1 game, it's going to be that much more enticing. Where sweeps, that's going to be tricky for any team late in the season, especially if Arizona has to go on the road to sweep the Padres, knowing that the Padres all they need is 1 win. So just keep that in mind as we move it along. But that's the wild card scenario in Major League Baseball. And the standings as it looks, Rays 5 games, White Sox 4, and they salvaged their series against the Cubs yesterday. They shut out the Cubs at Wrigley. Twins are 4 back. I know the Guardians and Tigers are 5.5, but I won't include them just yet. Astros 2 up on Texas, 4 in Seattle. Those are your division races. And in National League, although the Phillies are making it interesting, with them winning 6 in a row and the Braves getting swept in Minnesota, they are now, Phillies that is, 5 back in the loss, 4.5 in the standings. Let's see when they play again. Phillies, Braves. I believe they play one more time. 4 games in Philadelphia, Labor Day weekend. And that is a wraparound series. In fact, I take that back. 4 at home, Friday, September 4th through the 7th. And then 4 days later in Atlanta, the 11th, 12th, and 13th. I mean, that could be the division right there. Now, here's the thing. In order for the Phillies, I think, to overtake Atlanta, they'd have to go into that series at home, Labor Day weekend, 2 back. Not 3, not 4. I get it if they sweep them. If they're 4 games behind, they'll tie. But come on. And it's not impossible. If they're 3 back, even if they win 3 out of 4, they'll gain 2 games in the standings. So they'll be 1 back with a series in between before going to Atlanta. All right, you could see that. But I'd rather be 2 back. Because if the Phillies are 2 back and they win 3 out of 4, they'll be tied going into their respective 3-game series before they meet up again the following weekend. That's what I'd like to see. But they're still 5 and a loss. Good enough lead. But let's see how the next couple of weeks shake down before we even get to those series. And that's what you have with those teams. And then in the Central, the Brewers 5 up in the loss, 4.5 back. And the Dodgers now 9 up. I think they played the Rockies again today. No, they played the Pirates to go home. They swept the Rockies. And even though they've been a mess with the Dodgers, and who knows what's going to happen with the Mark Walter deal with the Lakers, and I'm going to get to that and how that ties into the Dodgers. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. That's going to come up in one of the, not the next segment, the following one. So that's what I have with the baseball. Let me see if there's anything else before I get to the schedule this weekend. Yeah, I know Dansby Swanson's out 4 to 6 weeks with an oblique. So that's a key loss there for the Cubs, but they'll be fine. I think they'll make the postseason. As it is right now, where do they stand? They are, I think, 4.5 ahead of the Phillies. Let me see. They're 4 games ahead of the Phillies right now. So they're in good stead at the present moment. Now, the schedule over the next few days into the weekend. Series that are wrapping up: Toronto, Tampa, Seattle, Milwaukee, Atlanta at Chicago. Cubs, that is. White Sox, excuse me. That's actually a makeup game, I believe, because Atlanta just finished playing in Minnesota, and then they go to Milwaukee after that, Atlanta. Tomorrow, Washington, Texas, Yankees, Baltimore. Houston's hosting the Angels. That's the start of a 4-game series. No, that's a lie. That concludes their series tonight. Why did I get that mixed up? But starting tomorrow, here are your series. Atlanta, Milwaukee, 2 division leaders, good series. And also home field. You got to think about that too. Tiebreakers. I'll look at their standings in a second because that is important. St. Louis and Philadelphia. If St. Louis wants to gain some ground on the Phillies, they're going to have to do it right now. And they're 5 back. So keep that in mind. Toronto at New York. Big series for Toronto. San Francisco at Boston. Washington at Miami. Let's see if Miami can get back on the beam to kind of still stay in the race there with the Nats coming to town. Tampa Bay at Baltimore. Good series. Mets in Chicago to play the White Sox. Detroit at KC. Cleveland at Colorado. Cincinnati, Arizona. Minnesota, San Diego. Chicago Cubs at Seattle. Pittsburgh at LA. Play the Dodgers. And that is your baseball. All right, I'm going to hang on to the comments, people. I'm going to get to the comments at the back end, and I'm also going to talk about our little sports town hall tonight. For those listening on Apple or Spotify, I'm going to do a sports town hall on the channel on YouTube. So definitely check that out tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I know it's kind of last minute, even though I talked about it, but I haven't really put it out there as far as promoting it. But that's going to take place tonight here on the channel. All right, now let me put on my helmet and shoulder pads, NFL, and get to the latest and greatest there. The one thing I got to start off with, and this is, I don't want to say it's crazy. Maybe it's a little strong. But the Seahawks and their quest to secure their secondary, we know about the situation regarding Terrion Arnold. He of the 8 felony charges for kidnapping and for robbery, where the Seahawks, they signed Devin Witherspoon, as you know, to the largest contract in NFL history for corner. But then they also signed Trayvon Diggs yesterday, who was on the scrap heap, and a lot of familiarity with former coaches and players when he was in Dallas. And for Diggs, who's going to go in there, and let's see how healthy and how sound he'll be going into this year. But I get it. I know that they want to make sure that they get guys in, get guys signed. Arnold, I thought, was a big stretch considering that he has some legal, not some, he has several legal issues that he has to deal with. But as I talked about yesterday on the live stream about the NFL not caring, they're bulletproof, doesn't matter. I mean, anything short of murdering somebody, you'll get a second chance in a heartbeat in the NFL. But the Seahawks, I get it. They want to defend their Super Bowl championship. They're trying to shore up their secondary. And at this point, they're pulling out all the stops. They might as well sign me off the street if they need a corner that bad. I mean, it's just weird. You would have thought that maybe at the early part of camp, they would have taken care of this or had settled this. Or maybe if they knew, and I'm sure they knew a lot about Arnold's off-the-field issues, to the point where even when they brought him in for a workout and they were just astounded by it. But, yeah, we don't care about your illegal issues. We just need to get a warm body in here and a good one at that. I mean, geez, is this what it's boiled down to, Seattle Seahawks? Are we that desperate? Maybe they are. Like I said, if that's the case, you're that desperate, you can sign me to a league minimum deal. I mean, who are we kidding? But the Seahawks, as you know, less than 3 weeks away from their opener, where the Patriots will be in town, as we'll get the NFL season underway at that time. But you have that. You have Jaden Higgins, who tore an ACL for the Texans, so he's going to be out. And Higgins, who was a first-year player last year, hurt himself during a joint practice. And now for Daniels, who I believe last year, what did he do last year? He had a decent season. I mean, nothing to write home about, but, he's a maturing player. So they take a hit there. We know about Nico Collins and Tank Dell coming back from injury. So you got that. Vita Vea signs with the Buccaneers, gets a 1-year extension. I believe it was, $30 million? Let me just double check that. Or could total, no, it's $24 million. He will make $30 million guaranteed. But yeah, it's a 1-year extension. So he gets that. I'm sure he would have liked more, but I bet he wanted to stay in Tampa. So you got that taken care of. And the Steelers will play both Will Howard and Drew Aller in their preseason game tomorrow against the Jets. Howard the first half, Aller the second. I talked about it on Steelers Latest, which is my endeavor. Check it out on YouTube. But I'll share with you real quickly. I wonder who the Jets are going to deploy to start the game. Are they going to go with their first-team defense? Are they going to go with backup, second string, third string? Who knows? But this is a big game for both of those guys. Do we even know, as a Steeler fan, who the quarterback of the future is on that roster? Because we know Aaron Rodgers is going to be gone after this year. And Mason Rudolph, I get it, seasoned vet, but he's not a guy that's going to carry the load for 17 games. So you wonder whether or not Howard or Aller are going to be those guys. And listen, we're not going to base it on a second preseason game, but it could certainly go a long way. Their poise, their escapability, reading the defense, making sure their checkdowns, not rushing throws, things of that nature. I guess that's what you're looking for if you're Mike McCarthy and company. So we'll see how that boils down tomorrow. But other than that, I'm not going to get into anything else. Shedeur Sanders not feeling the pressure over Brown's quarterback call. We know that kid is calm, collected. But is he any good? That we'll have to wait and see. And then A.J. Brown professing his love for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles after practice. Remember, they have a joint practice. I believe they're playing against one another in the preseason. I don't know if that game, probably up in Foxborough. And he says, honestly, guys, none of that stuff even matters, man. You should all want to report something positive. Asking the question is going to turn negative. So Scott got into that. Let's keep everything positive. It's love my way. I've got a lot of love for him and always have. And that's what Jalen Hurts said about A.J. Brown. So that's pretty much your NFL. All right, now let me turn my attention to the NBA real quick and basketball overall. Let me just give me 1 second here as I pull that up. I know you had the one trade yesterday, which is not going to move the needle, but the Cavaliers, I thought, made a very good trade, though. At first it was a 3-team deal, and then it became a 5-team deal, which is weird. And let's see how much I can break this down for you. Because the Sacramento Kings got involved, and then even the Sixers. But the bulk of the trade was Cleveland, Denver, and the Clippers, where the Nuggets are sending Peyton Watson, who's a good player, good role player, and Denver couldn't afford him. They're already in the second apron, so they had to do something. They send him to Cleveland, where Max Strus went to to the Clippers. Max Strus, the shooting guard, formerly Miami, played on the Cavaliers the last 2 years. And then Watson signed a 4-year, $88 million deal with Cleveland. On top of that, but as part of this deal, Denver will receive an unprotected 2031 Cavaliers first-round pick and a Sacramento Kings second-rounder. And then you want to also throw in the Clippers sending a second-round pick next year, or they're sending that pick that was acquired from the Sixers to Cleveland. And then on top of that, that trade the other day, Dennis Schrader for Trey Mann, Cleveland to Charlotte. now you have a situation where part of the deal that the Cavs, they're sending Man and that second rounder that they got from the Clippers to the Wizards for Cam Whitmore, who has a lot of potential. So, and Whitmore hasn't really flourished in Washington. So let's see if Whitmore is going to display his talents and maybe spread his wings a little bit. And listen, I'm not trying to make this guy out to be the second coming, but there have been a lot of reports on this kid that if he's in the right system, he can actually be a big-time player. So not only do they get Whitmore, but more importantly, they get Peyton Watson. So the Cavs, knowing that they have to retool, knowing that the Sixers and what they did this offseason, the Knicks are the defending champs, the Celtics, they'll be in the thick of things, but maybe not in the sense of a contender. And the Cavs feel like, hey, we got a couple of big pieces here, guys that could have a big ceiling in Whitmore, and Watson, who is a good role player, to go along with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell. Did James Harden sign on the dotted line? I don't even know, because I know he was going to be a free agent. Maybe he did. So that's what you got there. So that was your big NBA trade. And then, wait, was there something else I want to talk about in the NBA? Hold on. Thought I had this down here somewhere. Oh, of course, yeah. Hello. How could I forget? I should have started off with that, but the trade, for some reason, because it just happened last night. So my apologies. I want to get to the Lakers sale. Talked about it a little bit on Monday. I know our guy BioZio186, huge Laker fan, LA to the death, brought it up, and we talked about it a little bit there on Monday's podcast. But who knows what direction this thing's going to go? And this has a lot of tentacles based on Mark Walter, the pseudo former owner. I don't think he's a former owner just yet. It has to be approved by the other owners in the sport. But for Walter, and just to refresh everybody's memory, last week you had the situation where the Lakers were sold by Mark Walter, who owns the Dodgers, owns the Sparks, owns one of the, Chelsea football teams, and that's soccer, of course, among many other ventures that he has. Ended up selling the Lakers after having it for a little bit over a year to Josh Kushner, who's a venture capitalist, and Bob Iger, who needs no introduction, for $12.5 billion. So he was able to flip this team that he bought last year for $10 billion and got $2.5 billion on the return. And there was a lot of speculation. Whoa, this happened in the middle of the night, similar to the Luka trade where nobody had a clue, so on and so forth. And then now it's come out that he's being investigated by the feds for tax fraud, where who knows, stealing money from insurance, people that have actually had their life insurance trusted, and has he taken that money out to filter into other businesses that he has? Which, let's face it, could the Dodgers be involved? Let's pin that for a second. I'll get back to that. But when it comes to the Lakers, with him selling his team, and who knows how much trouble he's in, sounds like it's a whirlwind of trouble considering that he sold the Lakers. This isn't the Charlotte Hornets. This isn't the New Orleans Pelicans. This isn't the Utah Jazz. This is one of the, arguably, the top 5 franchises in North America. Yankees, Cowboys, Lakers. For hockey's sake, you want to throw in the Canadiens or the Leafs, they're not worth anything close to those teams, but they're a cornerstone franchise. Dodgers, still stick that pin in there. So for Walter to now sell this team, and again, it hasn't been approved yet, so it's still his team. And with the feds, based on one of the reports that he was ready to get on a flight, or he was on a flight, and the feds came into the aircraft, took the laptop, phone, got him off. And now is under watchful eye to see whether or not these wrongdoings are baseless or have a lot of teeth in them. And something tells me it has a lot of teeth in them. So to now pivot to the Busses, that of Jeanie and her 5 siblings. Now, they still have stake in the ownership, more so from the Board of Governors, where Jeanie Buss, when agreed with the sale with Mark Walter last year, because the family owns more than 15% or has 15% stake in the organization, that they could be, or she could be, on the Board of Governors for the next, at the time, 5 years. And it came out over the weekend, or even the early part of the week, where the other siblings are like, no, we want to sell our stake. Sorry. Which would then leave Jeanie Buss with about 3% stake, which means she would have no say in what anything has to do with the Lakers, because she wouldn't be a part of the Board of Governors at that point. And Jeanie Buss is now fighting with her siblings to see whether or not that they could all agree to not sell their shares, but the other siblings are like, that's it. We're out. We want to make do. Now, is this in part because of what's happening with Mark Walter? That they don't want it to be a situation where they don't want to get blood on their hands? I don't know to what extent they know what's going on with Walter, etc. I'm sure Jeanie has to be clued into some degree, but I'm sure she's not following Walter on a 24/7 basis. So now you got that scenario to see whether or not that they're going to be able to hash out that 15, or that, I believe they have like almost 18% stake in the Lakers. That's the whole Buss family. The brothers and the 4 brothers, 4 guys, 2 girls, the family there. So you got Walter and all that hanging over his head. And then you got the Busses and them trying to hold on, Jeanie more so than the other 5, hold on to whatever stake that they have to be a part of this franchise, despite the fact right now it looks like it could just blow up in everybody's face. So how's this all going to play out? Now let's go back to the Dodger aspect of it. And again, this is from afar. This is all speculation. So I don't know anything or have any tidbit or morsel of evidence. You would have to think that the sale of the Lakers by Mark Walter and being investigated for tax fraud and whatever businesses, and it's insurance tax. I don't know if it's life insurance, health insurance. I'm sure it's more life insurance than anything. I'll have to double check that. And with all the other baskets that he has his hands in, or pots, I should say, we know that the Dodgers are a huge part of that. And you have to wonder, just think about this in this bio, and I'm sure you've thought about this. My guy out in LA. How does this tie in with the Dodgers in the grand scheme of things? Has he been taking money from one pot to fulfill another? When you think about all the deferred contracts that the Dodgers have, to where he's in a world of trouble that, let me sell off this team now, because if I'm going to be investigated and I'm in a world of trouble, then how is Shohei Ohtani going to get paid? Granted, you got to wait till the year 2034, but he's going to be owed $680 million 10 years after that contract is up, to go along with Mookie Betts, to go along with Kyle Tucker, to go along with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, to go along with Tyler Glasnow, to go along with Edwin Diaz, and people want to laugh at Bobby Bonilla Day? And again, I'm not saying that this is the case with Walter and the Dodgers as it is where it stands with his situation with the Lakers. But you have to kind of take a look at this from 30,000 feet. If he's selling his team to get off his hands so he could get that $12.5 billion in assets to where he's going to have to disperse that to lawyers that are, I'm sure, they're probably getting paid $20,000 an hour. That may be a stretch, but that may not be as far-fetched. Where he's going to try to weasel his way out of this if he is guilty. But you have to wonder whether or not the Dodgers are going to be affected here. Because by him selling the team, and let's say it doesn't get approved, and now he's on the hook for this. Now, I'm sure I'm sure a zillion people lined up to try to buy the Dodgers. So that's not the case. But as far as Walter goes, you may have another situation where the Dodgers, where they were in shambles dating back to the days of Rupert Murdoch and Frank McCourt. Now, you're going to have this situation here, which, let's face it, if it does come out that the Dodgers are affected here based on Walter's actions, then a lot of people are going to look at this organization. I won't go as far as saying it's a fraud. They're not. They've been playing by the rules, etc. But if Walter's been hemorrhaging as far as his tax and insurance fraud for the sake of the Dodgers, that's a terrible optic. That does not look good. And no matter how you slice it, the World Series and all that, they're legit. Don't get me wrong. It's not as if, you got to take the World Series back. And I'm sure there'll be some people that will say that. But you have to wonder, the business practice of Walter and what he's done here, and if he is guilty, and if it somehow ties into the Dodgers, I mean, this is a calamity. Because then you're going to look at their business practices and this is the reason why the Dodgers were able to afford all these players. Based on Walter saying, you know what? It's not my money, but I'll put it back because I got the Dodgers, I got this, I got the Lakers, I got this business, I got Chelsea, I got the Sparks, Come on, I said this a billion times, to use that word, billion. These guys who have made money, whether legally, illegally, whatever, but they do not practice this ethically. They do not. Am I in these rooms? Have I witnessed any of this? Of course not. But come on. I've said it before. I said it again. Maybe Mark Cuban. Maybe even Richard Branson. But when you think about the billionaires in the world, and I don't want to single out particular people, but you know who the most richest guys in the world are. Their practices are horrific. And as I've said, the next ethical billionaire I see will be the first. Because all they're doing is just cashing their checks and building their assets and building their wealth at the sake of people like you and me. Without giving them any of the benefit, the true benefit. And no, not a pizza party on a Friday. Or no, not, all right, here's $100 for whatever. Or, the employee of the month, all right, he's going to get a day off. Nonsense. These guys are making zillions of dollars. Everybody should be getting paid handsomely. Please. These guys that are worth $20, $30 billion. What, you mean to tell me? Come on. I don't even want to go there because now I'm going off the rails here when it comes to this topic. But you got to think, this investigation, is it going to go just Lakers or is it going to go deeper than that? Where they're going to look around and be like, wait a minute. Let's take a look at the Dodgers here. And if that's going to be the case, stand back and get out of the way because that could go from really bad to worse. And speaking of bad to worse, and I'll get your comments. If Cathy Engelbert survives this, the WNBA commissioner, I mean, she's going to have more 9 lives than Morris the cat. And I'm aging myself by saying that. Last year, if you recall, during the collective bargaining agreement, how Cathy Engelbert was a bit, let's say, arrogant and showed a lot of hubris, saying, oh, yeah, deal's going to get done, and oh, we're not going to worry about this. Oh, we're successful, blah, blah, blah. She said all these different things. I'm paraphrasing, but you also had Nafisa Collier, one of the top players in the sport, Minnesota Lynx, destroy her, saying that our leadership, and I'll say it nicely, is lacking big time. Our commissioner is not doing anything. And is there some truth to that? Maybe based on her hubris. As you know, I'm not following the WNBA day in and day out. But then yesterday, Sophie Cunningham, who obviously has been the poster child for the WNBA this year, and I know there's Caitlin Clark and a bunch of others. I don't want to just look at it that way. But of course, you know, her with the point, the meme, her being outspoken for women's sports, their team, a lightning rod for everything. Stuff on the court, Caitlin Clark, their head coach not backing up one of her former players or not backing up Sophie Cunningham after that clothesline by DeJounte Carrington, who the head coach Stephanie White actually coached years ago, so she didn't want to throw Carrington under the bus. I mean, it's almost like it's WWE, the WNBA. But for Sophie Cunningham to come out yesterday to say that the league needs a bold commissioner, and let me see if I can pull up a quote here. Yeah, one that looks out for the players and not for themselves. Now, you got to be fair here. Generally, in the other sports, especially baseball, they'll be the ones to attest. But the head of the players union and the commissioner, they're not supposed to be locked, arm step, buddy, going to dinner every night. Yes, they have to have a working relationship to get that CBA, to make sure that they get a fair deal across the board, however they negotiate that. But I understand Cunningham coming out saying we need a bold commissioner and so on and so forth, and instead of looking out for themselves. Well, the commissioner is looking out for the owners. They're not looking out for the players. But you have a terrible example at the top, because Cathy Engelbert, the WNBA commish, she reports to Adam Silver. And as we know, Adam Silver is the anti-David Stern, where he wants to rub elbows with the players. He wants to make sure it's peaceful. And you know what? To a certain extent, I can understand where he's coming from. But you have to have that divide. You can't have the players and the commissioner be, oh, shucks, all right, guys, hey, we're all in this together. Because there are owners that are saying, wait a second, who are you for? Are you for the players? Or are you for us? Because we're the ones that you report to, the 30 owners in the NBA. And I don't know, has Silver almost sprinkled some of his magic dust onto Engelbert to where she feels like she's bulletproof? That she could say anything or do anything and not face any type of consequences or repercussions? And if you have players coming out and destroying your commissioner, and you don't hear that in any of the other sports, yes, there may be a conflict of interest, or there may be disagreements. Bryce Harper towards Rob Manfred, or certain NFL players not agreeing with Roger Goodell as far as extending the season, things of that nature. But you haven't heard a player come out and say, this commissioner's weak, or somebody from Major League Baseball to say Rob Manfred is gutless or spineless or whatever. You only see this in the WNBA. And I'm sure there are a lot of players in the NHL that do not like Gary Bettman. But you don't hear any of those players ripping him left and right. So I don't know what gives here. I don't know. Do you just get rid of the commissioner here at this point? Because now, whatever damage control that Adam Silver is going to have towards the current commissioner, I mean, he may be out of rope. He may have to look at this and say, I got to cut my losses and get somebody in here that's going to, all right, I understand they're not going to sidle with the players, but they're going to have not necessarily even a relationship, but a working relationship. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. But you can't have your commissioner come out and say certain things. Now, this was a while ago. I know Engelbert has probably laid low here recently. But you can't have players coming out and destroying your commissioner. Because then you got to think the players are right. But to be said one more time, Adam Silver has to rein this in. And I get it. It's not his fight to back up for Engelbert. But at some point, he's going to have to say something because Engelbert reports to Silver. And I'm surprised that a lot of the basketball media, and I get it, there's no NBA going on, and I don't know if anybody from the WNBA is trying to contact Adam Silver at this point, but I would have to think somebody has to stick a microphone in Adam Silver's face and be like, hey, your commissioner's getting slaughtered here. What's going on? He's got to say something. Now, of course, he's not going to come out and say, yeah, well, we're looking into it and we'll have a verdict for you at the end of the season. No, he's going to say, well, hey, listen, we've heard the noise, but that's all it is right now. Let's let the rest of the regular season play out. You haven't even gotten that. But that's Adam Silver. This was David Stern. I'm sure, who knows? Maybe Engelbert would have been gone before the start of this past season. But they got to figure that out. This can't go on any further. Whether Engelbert is culpable here or guilty, or they just have to tell the players, hey, you guys have to pipe down. There has to be some kind of meeting of the minds between Silver, Engelbert, and then Engelbert and the players. And, of course, a statement by Engelbert to say, listen, whatever. But, I mean, come on. Who's next? Is another player going to come out and say something about the commissioner? All right, let me see if I get your comments. I think that was one of the things. Let me just double check. Hold on. No, that was it. Yeah, that's in 2027, right? The Bruins and Oilers get a pair of Germany games. You know how I feel about the overseas games. And in hockey and basketball, yeah, you don't even pay attention. Baseball's different because baseball's a long season. They usually do that in March before the season starts. The games in Japan and Korea. Now they've had the London games, as we know. What they had? Yankees, Red Sox, Mets, Phillies. I think Cardinals, Cubs too, if I'm not mistaken. But Bruins and Oilers will play in Munich, Germany, 27-28, where Leon Draisaitl's from. So, for those who are paying attention. All right, but let's get your comments. Let's break it all down. And then we'll talk about the, what's it called tonight? The town hall. Blowing up soon. All right, let's push. All right, Zion. I appreciate you stopping by. Ray, what is happening? Greetings. What's up? That's what MLB wanted when they made that extra wild card. They wanted more teams to be in it. Yes. I know I'm not a fan. Listen, who am I to say? I wasn't a fan of it at the time, but I guess 6 teams. But, nah, listen, I'm a fan of it. We've seen the NFL extend, obviously the NBA with the play-in. So, and that's all. It's all about money at the end of the day. Was that me? Jeez. Excuse me. But, no, you're right, Ray. 100%. Valkyries lost. Giants beat the Guardians. Yes, they did, Val. Val, greetings. Jung-Hoo Lee. Happy birthday. J-Rod. I know, J-Rod, my apologies. I got to get you a text. I know you sent it. I haven't even looked at it yet, to be honest with you. It's been kind of a whirlwind the last 2 days, and thankfully, knock on wood, Kismet's there. The other dog's on the sofa. I thought they would have gone crazy by now, but they haven't. They can go crazy now. Just had to get my stream of consciousness now. So, It's good for baseball, but we got to be honest with ourselves. We can't avoid the elephant in the room called neighborhood. Yeah, well, that's that we know, Ray, is going to be Armageddon. But we're not going to worry about that until we get to after the postseason, or unless something happens during the postseason where, and you haven't heard any talks recently between Rob Manfred and Bruce Meyer, still the interim head of the Players Union. Getting ready to go camping. J-Rod, have fun. Oh, man. I haven't got, geez, the last time I got camping. Last time I got camping, man, it's been forever. Actually, the last time I went camping, now that it comes to me, was maybe 1994. Jeez, with my ex-girlfriend. They had a cabin upstate. Yeah, that's Monticello, New York. Wow. Extra wild card is bad for baseball. Yeah, I'm a traditionalist. And listen, when they extended it to 5, you're kind of like, you know. But, yeah, and Bio, you said it right here. It is. Now, this is the first time that baseball's ever experienced this till this late in the season. But I predicted that you're going to have a team under 500 in the postseason. And that's going to be, listen, that's going to be awful. Because those teams have to play one another, as you know. And all those teams. Seattle's going to have to play Texas again. Baltimore's going to play Toronto. You know about the 3 teams in the Central. They'll have to play one another. And they're all going to beat each other up. And, yeah. No, I'll admit. And the reason it is bad for baseball now, and I'm glad you brought that up in that regard. Because when we get to this time next month, and obviously the playoff picture will be a lot clearer, hopefully, you have a team that's a few games over 500. We've seen teams win divisions. The Mets, 73. I understand it's 100 years ago. 82 and 79. Or the Cardinals were 83 and 79 and 06. The Twins, 87. Didn't they win 85 games? Didn't they go 85 and 77? I believe that year, not the 91 team. So, yeah, it's not like it's out of the realm for a team to win 82, 83, 85 games to not only make the playoffs, but even win a World Series. But to have a team 80 and 82, or dare I say 78 and 84, oh. Yeah, that's not good. Thank you, Val, as always. A lot of people loving underdogs. Storm, the Yankees will finish that record. Yeah, they were 82 and 80 in 2023. You're right about that, Ray. J. Rose, did you get a new logo for the show? Oh, what? The one you see in the top right? On the screen? I don't know if you see that. I've had that for a few months, if you're referring to that logo. Unless you saw another logo that I'm not aware of. I know. Yeah, that was just... that was an atrocious call. That reminded me of a call last year, if you remember, Ray, in Tampa. It was early in the season, and remember, Tampa were playing at Steinbrenner Field, where I believe it was Aaron Judge hit a home run. It was down the left field line, and that sucker was, it was gone by like 60, 70 feet. But they called that foul, and that looked like it was fair by like 3 feet. Oh, that was an atrocious call. All right, Val. Mets fire someone at the end of the season, David Stearns. Well, based on what Steve Cohen said yesterday, and I'll even pull up the quotes for you, which is disgusting. Oh, geez, I may not have it. Hold on. Yeah, Steve Cohen was asked about David Stearns again. And he said, David is smart. Oh, excuse me. Here it is. I'm committed to David. We're going to move forward. I thought we had a great trade deadline. All right. We won't know until those guys come up. May look good now. David is smart. He knows what he's doing. He's very adaptable. He learns from mistakes. That's what I want in a leader. You know what my follow-up question would have been? All right, he learns from his mistakes, but Jorge Polanco was brought here to play first base, has an injury history longer than the Declaration of Independence. And there's a guy in Baltimore that you just could have re-signed that was your own homegrown player that is on the verge of hitting his 30th home run. What do you say about that? What do you say about Frankie Montas? What do you say about Luis Robert? And you probably say the same thing. He's not going to throw him under the bus, but come on. David is smart. He knows what he's doing. Come on. My grandson could have said, no, don't pick Jorge Polanco. Stop. And I get it. He's not going to throw him overboard, but I'm convinced that Major League Baseball wants us to talk about this stuff, so that's why they did that. Oh, really? Ray, if that's the case, then us sports fans were in trouble. Baseball fans in particular. Juggling act, yeah. But if that does happen, I will publicly go on my channel and apologize to you personally as the baby brother. Nah, there's no need. Uncomfortable. What is happening? Cheers. Yeah, Ray, there's no need to come on to apologize. Nah. Is the baby brother made the play? Oh, yeah. You talking about the baby brother Mets? Oh, yeah. Here we go. Well, wait. Let me just acknowledge again. Comfortable. If you're still with us, thank you. As always, your thoughts on Mets Cohen saying he might have taken too much risk with offseason moves. My first thought is, when did that finally sink in? When did it sink in? During the 12-game losing streak, when both Robert and Polanco were healthy, I might add. And that 12-game losing streak was in April. Yeah, like when did that sink in? And I understand he's not going to talk about the offseason now. There's still, 30-some-odd games to go? Maybe more than that. What's the Mets record right now? 58-70, I think. So if you do the math, that's what? 128. Oh, they got 34 games left. Yeah, I don't like it. I like that he admitted it, but I don't like what he said about Stearns. And I understand, as I just stated a second ago. But, yeah, it's Cohen. He can't get out of his own way. And quite honestly, I think he's in over his head. Like, why would he even say David is smart, he knows what he's doing? Come on. You're fooling the fan base by saying that. He could say, we've had a rough year. Obviously, the moves didn't go well. David has made mistakes, but he learns from those mistakes. I believe in him. You can still look at that and be like, oh, how could you believe in this guy and what he did last year? But okay, but he did admit if he said that. And I would accept that. I would say, all right, all right, Steve Cohen, I understand that you could see David made mistakes. And this year was torpedoed by his personnel decisions. And he'll have to say that in a roundabout, kind of nicely packaged way. But if he said that, but still says, I believe and I trust in him, I wouldn't like it, but at least he admitted that Stearns flopped here. I mean, there's all the ways to it. There's no other way to put it. But for him to say, oh, he's smart, he's a leader of this team, I believe. There's a million Met fans that disagree with you. And I understand. If you listen to the fans, you're going to end up sitting with them. But you know what? One more time. Luis Robert, I would have said, no way. I get it, we need a center fielder, but I would have said, nope, don't do it. Jorge Polanco, And for David Stearns' reasoning for Jorge Polanco was because we wanted run prevention when it came to Pete Alonso's defense, and we signed a guy that never played first base. How is that smart? His words ain't fooling me. How about the Jason that goof? Not worth saying his name. That's like 6 errors in 3 games. Because, yeah, that was a couple nights ago, right? I didn't see that. Yeah, I did not see that comfortable. But yeah, that's obviously it's not good. Definitely not. And that Brewers game, 22-0? Yeah, no. Seattle signing Diggs probably means they won't sign Arnold. You know what's funny? You say that, Bio, but then I read this. Hold on a second. And I believe you, and I totally agree with you in that regard. But let me pull this up. When I read this, I said, what? Yeah, former Dallas Cowboys Pro Bowl cornerback Trayvon Diggs plans to sign a 1-year deal with the Seahawks. The move addresses one of Seattle's biggest question marks and offers Diggs a chance for a fresh start with the reigning Super Bowl champs. But now here's the thing that was alarming. The Seahawks still plan to sign cornerback Terrion Arnold, but with no word on when he will be available to play amid his ongoing legal case. They still plan to sign him. What? I didn't realize Terrion Arnold was Deion Sanders. As a Ram fan, I'm always in tune to FC. Yes, you are. And Seahawks fan. Oh, I totally agree. That move says different. Absolutely. See, I don't like this either. Listen, has A.J. Brown been a Boy Scout? Has he been one of nature's noblemen? He is not. But, you see, I hate that. I hate when they do that. And I get it. They're fishing for stories. They're fishing for quotes. They're fishing for certain narratives. But I see past that. And I understand they're playing one. When is that game? Is that Saturday? Hold on. Saturday night in Foxborough. And you're going to hear it for the next 2 days, and it's just going to be, No, I agree. It's dumb and it's unfair. Yes, I will talk about that momentarily, Val. America hates winners. Every team that wins vets are going to get torn out by the media and fans. Yeah, there is truth to that, I will admit. Especially teams that win a lot. And it doesn't help when you have fan bases that they think, Patriots, Yankees. I don't know. I say the Dodgers become more of a villain. And, the media will do anything it takes to tear that down. So, yeah. No, you're right about that. And then Bio, let me see this. So, let's see. Dodgers are cheating now? No, I don't think the Dodgers are cheating. NFL was fixing games for KC Chiefs and Taylor Swift conspiracy. Yeah, OKC was torn down because the NBA was fixing games. SJ got allowed in the flop. Yeah. No, the Dodgers aren't cheating. Like I said, they have done it fairly as far as them signing players. But if whatever Walter's business practices and whatever that they investigate, if the Dodgers are tied into this, the only reason why is because of all those deferred contracts. And I'm sure there's a part of them that thinks that, let me make sure. And again, this is just me thinking out loud and way out the box. No conspiracy theories because I don't think any of this is true. But who knows? The old saying, what doesn't come out in the wash, will come out in the rinse. If by any way, shape, form, that the Dodgers are tied into this, then they're going to realize, now we see why they're not only getting all these players, but also putting them in deferred contracts is because he's stealing money here to put forth money there. That's if it's true. If it's not true, then the Dodgers are cool. So they're not cheating. But there's going to be a lot of speculation that if the Lakers sale is to cover a lot of those finances when it comes to whatever he's done with the tax fraud stuff and having to pay for lawyers and payouts and all that, then that's fine. But I'm just wondering from afar, is there any correlation between what he's done with the tax fraud and maybe even the Dodgers? And that's all. Oh, bio. If the Knicks repeat this year, then there'll be a report on the Knicks at some point on how they're cheating. Well, first off, let's hope that the Knicks do not repeat. Let's start there. Sorry, Ray. I don't know. Is that? Let me see. In the NBA, see the NBA. See James Dolan, Cablevision, and listen. Not that I trust Dolan as far as I could throw him, but who knows? Could something like that happen? It could. Would I be surprised? I wouldn't. See, but the thing about that, though, Bio, is that there is as you know, there's a very solid cap. And we know there's a luxury tax after that. So even if the Knicks go over, and we know about second aprons and all that, yeah, so I don't know if that's necessarily cheating. Now, cheating would be them tampering before trading. Let's say before they got OG Anunoby, were they tampering prior to that? And I'm not saying that's the case, but I see where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from when you say that. Cathy Engelbert is bad. She hasn't done well in WNBA or watch Valkyries. Yeah, she's been a little bit too much, I have to say. Waffle Iron, a.k.a. Minnesota Fats, Rhoda Penmark, Tatsuya Mai, Fuka Johnson, Kai Boy Bull, Everyday Mets, Dad's Chips. Knows where the skeletons are buried. Here's the crazy thing. When you think about Stearns, Stearns has a hell of a lot more resources than the Milwaukee Brewers. And even though he flourished there too, but here they are with the best record in the sport. And Steve Cohen says that, oh, this guy's smart. What gives? I got a jet, bud. Don't forget, walk the dogs. Yes, comfortable. I appreciate you, man. Or uncomfortable. Thank you. I'm sure you're probably out. Yeah, that was what, 10 minutes ago? 8 minutes ago. Appreciate you stopping by. Yes, Val, as always. If I were Steve Cohen, I would say I'm rich. I love the fans. I'll continue writing the checks to David Stearns for now. Short and sweet. Yeah, for now, I would say it all. For now, I would say it all. But here's the other thing, too, though, Waffle Iron. This is where their PR has to step in. And I understand it's coming from the horse's mouth, so it's not as if there needs to be an intervention. But, and good for Cohen to face the music, but my thing is that you can't fool I'll just say the Met fan, or the Yankee Northeast, whatever. Can't fool us. We've been through the Wilpons. We've seen it all. We've heard it all. We've read it all. No. So whatever you say about David Stearns, anything short of, we're not going to fire him, but he's done an awful job where if he said, whoa, okay, being brutally honest, we like that. And we understand he's not going to do that. But this gibberish, and I'm going to read this again. I'm committed to David. Yeah, he still has 2 more years left on his contract at God knows how many million. So, of course, he's not going to do that. We're going to move forward. I thought we had a great trade deadline. Yeah, it may look great on paper, but are these guys going to pan out? How about when you traded Justin Verlander for Drew Gilbert? How did that work out? Drew Gilbert was supposed to be the prized outfielder on the Houston Astros at the time. And meanwhile, you sent him packing. Luis Angel Acuna, who hasn't amounted to anything in the White Sox, but when you brought him in the Max Scherzer trade, a lot of people thought, oh, wait a minute. He's not going to be as good as his brother, Ronald, but he's going to be a good Major League player. He's not even that. So, all right, you may replenish your farm system, and I know you brought in the guys. What are their names off the top of my head? What's his name? Jonathan Rojas, the shortstop, and it's a shortstop too. And that was in the, wasn't in a Peralta deal. It was in the, can't think of his name. Lou Weaver. Yeah, Sammy Stafora, who's the 21-year-old shortstop prospect. I don't know what they're going to do with him, unless they trade Lindor, because you already know. And then the other trade they got, I think, was Jonathan Rojas. Hold on, let me see if I got this name. I think it was Jonathan. Hang on, Jonathan. No, that's not him. Jefferson Rojas. Sorry about that. And he was in the trade, Clay Holmes, in that deal. And I believe, what is he? Isn't he also another shortstop? Yeah, he's another shortstop. He's hit 17 home runs this year, but if you look at he's 5'11", 150. Yeah, 17 homers, 71 RBIs. He's batting .270. He's in Double-A ball. So here's the thing. They bring in Rojas and Stafora, two guys that play the same position. And I understand that if you do trade Lindor, which it could be a possibility, and Semien has one more year left on his contract. No, I think two more. Doesn't he have two more? I should know that off the top of my head. I think it's two more. And listen, these guys still have a way to go. Hopefully by the time Semien is gone. Oh, yeah. I mean, the Mets are just... Yeah, he has two more years after this year. And how old is this kid? Jefferson Rojas? I think he's 21, I saw. He's 21. So maybe by the time he's 23. And what about... And Sammy Stafora is also 21, too. All right, so by the time they're 23, maybe they'll be a part of the team, and away we go. Seahawks organization is being run like a new owner. They will learn the way of the Shield way. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because who was the new owner of the Seahawks now? Because was it Paul Allen? Well, no. Paul Allen owned them, and then he passed. But I'm also thinking of the Portland Trailblazers because they just sold also. And the sisters had gotten... They inherited the team from Paul Allen. Who are the Seahawks? Yeah, currently owned. Oh, they haven't. Oh, that's right. The Closer family? Yeah, so it's not official yet. Yeah, it's still Jody Allen, who's the sister, I believe. The Paul Allen estate, they still own it. The Seahawks have been sold for a record $9.6 billion. Ownership group led by the Khosla family, Khosla, pending approval. an investment group led by the Closer family, including billionaire investor Vinod Closer. Sale agreement was announced on July 11th. 2026 awaits final ratification and approval by the NFL. And John Schneider's their GM, which, yeah, the novice. Yeah, the way of the shield. That's it. Jalen Brown not talking about the trade media narrative again. Yeah, and you know what's interesting too? It came from the horse's mouth, Jalen Brown, but now you're going to start to. This is what happens with the media. Because again, I understand they got to fish for stories. They got to, but there has to be some integrity and responsibility when it comes to that. Jalen Brown did say in his introductory interview to the Sixer media a couple weeks back, when asked about Jason Tatum, he goes, "Oh, I had a relationship with him for 9 years. You won a title, blah, 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 so on and so forth." And then the follow-up was, "Oh, have you spoken to Jason?" And Jalen Brown's quote was, "Not really." When I heard that, I'm like, oh, okay. All right. That's it. No need to go, oh, what's the real reason behind that? Oh, well, I bet you he didn't like what Jalen Brown said in his live stream right after they lost to the Sixers. And stop. If anything, just go to the horse's mouth and try to get that. So my thing to Jason Tatum, if I was fortunate enough, Jalen Brown, and it's easy. And listen, I am not a journalist. I'm not trying to be Walter Cronkite, anything like that. But to me, if I'm the media, I try to find Jason Tatum and the two questions right off the rip. So Jalen Brown says that he said, "Not really, you guys haven't spoken." Is that true? Yeah, it is true. Okay. Do you and Jalen have any animosity toward one another? Maybe in particular his comments after the season, 24 hours after he lost to the Sixers, to where he said it was his favorite season. Did you take that maybe as a knock or maybe as a diss towards you? Or did you talk about that maybe right after the series? And let's see what he says. That's it. If he says, no comment, or if he says, no, I haven't spoken to him, then that's it. No need to start coming up with all these different theories, and it's garbage. And that's why, listen, I understand it's sleazy. It's the only problem with the Dodgers is if he was using other people's money for deferred contracts and is selling Lakers to put money back. Yeah. 100%. Because imagine, now that's the thing. He's putting the money back, and even though that'll be Kushner and Iger's headache, but because he brought this upon himself, he's going to have to iron that out. And $12.5 billion will do that. But also, I'm sure he's going to need a nice chunk of that to pay off lawyers. And again, it is billion. It's not million. It's billion. But who knows? Ever since a certain person came into politics, he brought this. Sports is adopted. Now, I will say this. It's adopted that narrative, but to people who really know, it hasn't. But I can't disagree with you on that, Bio. I cannot. And that's the sad thing, because people can't either judge or do a little homework, research, etc., to find out for themselves. You know, they'll see one thing and it's like, oh, and it's gospel. And therefore, see, this is what I mean. Blah, blah, blah. Come on. I mean, that's the same thing where people will come out and say, you know, certain diets don't work, or, yeah, oh, you don't want to eat that because you're going to wither away, or, oh, I'm not eating that because it's rabbit food, or, oh, yeah, you got to eat this to get strong. Everybody's different, first and foremost. Let's start there. And number two, all right, what works for you may not work for somebody else. And number three, just because it works for you doesn't mean it's superior to every other diet. And that's the thing that I get upset when people, they see one reel or one clip or whatever, and they take it and run with it. As opposed to saying, wait a minute, let me look into this a little bit further. That's why I've said, I don't know if the Dodgers are tied in with this Mark Walter mess. But the old saying, if there's smoke, there's fire, it could possibly be. Possible. That's all. And if it's not the case, you won't hear me say a word about it. If it happens to be the case, well, Mark Walter did this to supplement that for the two-time defending champs. Now you got a story, and now we can talk about it. But until then, it's just all speculation. And right, is that my way of being a conspiracy theory? I don't think so. I'm just bringing up something that could possibly, if not potentially, occur. Ray, that was an interesting comment on my Knicks. Oh, it's true. Knicks are a good team. If they continue to win, the haters will come. But you know what? You know what that will be? That will stem from, though, Bio, and especially me living in New York. And the Knicks fan has every right to gloat, to puff their chest out, etc. And this is going to be a fact, Ray, and you know this. I see you, Waffle Line. I see what you wrote there, Arbayani. New York is a fair weather town. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Let me see Citi Field, and you can ask me, hand raise high in the air. But you know I still love my team. I still root for them. But late September, you're going to get 17,000 in that ballpark. Whereas if they were in the thick of a pennant race or in the division, it'd be sold out. I get it that there's some faction of fan bases, whether it's the New York Rangers. The Knicks, yeah, the fans usually show up, even when they're bad. But the worst part about it is if the Knicks do win again this year, if they go back-to-back, forget about it. Now they're going to think they're the greatest team in NBA history, which would be laughable. I'm sorry. It'd be laughable. And then the Knicks fan is going to really be, they're going to end up being like the Patriot fan or the Yankee fan to think that, oh, now it's our birthright to be in the NBA Finals because we got Big Bad Body Brunson, we got OG, we got Karl Anthony Towns, etc. When we know that that's going to be false. And I'll be the first one to shoot that down if they win again. And when you take even a look at some of these recent teams, what about the Cowboy fan in the 90s? I understand there are Cowboy fans everywhere. But puffing their chest out. And they had a right. Those teams were constructed the right way, etc. But we got sick of the Cowboy fan. We're like, oh, geez, enough. We get it. The triplets. The Great Wall of Dallas. Dion. Jerry Jones, which to this day is still Jerry Jones. You want to throw up. And that's the same because the media pushes those narratives. Same thing with when LeBron was in Cleveland, 4 straight years. Oh, now it's LeBron again. Oh, I'm tired of hearing about LeBron. I'm sure in the 90s, people were sick of Jordan and the Bulls. Now, it's not as heightened as it is today because of social media and people obviously dispersing texts, comments, quotes, articles, narratives, as bios every 5 seconds, where back then that wasn't the case. But people were sick of the Bulls. Oh, Bulls win all the time. I've had enough. Yankees in the late 90s, Ray notwithstanding. I was sick of them. Tired. Built their team the right way. Stick Michael. We know who the guys are. But yeah, I had enough. I've seen enough Yankee World Series to last a zillion lifetimes. And yeah, I understand. Those were good guys. Those were teams, it wasn't as if they had bad guys on there. It's not as if they were the 86 Miami Hurricanes. And everybody hated the Hurricanes back then. It's not a team that you can't stand. People are sick of the Warriors winning. It's just like that. People are going to hate. But they're going to hate for different reasons. They're going to hate because they're just sick of the team winning. And then the fans start acting up. And believe you me, if my team were ever fortunate to go back-to-back or be in a dynasty or whatever, you think I'm going to be out here? I'm just going to be, hey, we won again. I can't believe it. It's unbelievable. You're not going to see me, oh, that's right. nonsense. Yes. Brewer Nagbayani. Another one that was part of the trade. Was that for... What was the first release? Was it Brooks Raley? Maybe it was Raley. No, I think it was not Waskar Brazaban. Geez, I forgot. Petrie? Spikerman? Uh-oh. Read that Mitch Voigt might be the Mets' #1 prospect, second baseman. Yeah, in fact, I know a lot of people, even though they said he can't play the field, he's terrible. But, and I haven't even looked at that recently. At the start of the year, a lot of people thought that Jonah Tong and Elian Pena, right, I'm just looking at it now. Yeah, Tong is 5th. They got Rojas first, Jonathan Santucci second, Elian Pena, oh, by the way, shortstop. He's 18 years old and he's an A-ball, so he's got time. Santucci's in AAA. Mitch Voigt, 21 years old. Jonah Tong, let me see who's after this. Yeah, that Sammy Stafura is 8th. And then Jack Wenninger, right-handed pitcher. Nick Morabito had a couple of There's Ryan Clifford. He's 15th. Clifford has a lot of power, but boy, he is like, whatchamacallit? They're saying he could be like Rob Deere. What else? Yeah, that's it. I'm going top 20. I don't want to go that far down. Gabe Davis, didn't they get him from Tampa? Yeah, so I know Mitch Voigt, and that's good. If he's second baseman, they got a boatload of shortstops. Oh, the Yankees win. I don't care about this. Your franchise is wasting that man's prime because looking back on it, it's not worked. Man, that man's prime. Are you talking about Juan Soto's prime? I mean, Juan Soto's going to turn what? 28 this year? So he's just entering his prime. And remember, Soto could opt out in 3 years, but I don't think he's going to do that. Especially if the new CBA, what is he going to do? He's going to get a 6-year, $200 and some odd million contract when he could just stay for 10 more years. And let me think about that for a second. If he stood for 10 more years after these first 5, he'll make about 250. Oh no, he'd make like less than 500 million. No, there's no way. Come on. Yes, 10 a.m. You got those early games there with the East Coast playing in Cleveland. And that was after having a 3-1 in the series. Which series are you referring to, Ray? Yankees win, I don't care about this. Your franchise is wasting that man's prime because he's not looking back and it hasn't worked. But then after having 3-1 in the series. Sorry to bring up a bad memory. Are you talking about, you're talking about Alonso? Having a 3-1 in the series. Yeah, I'm trying to connect your dots. For some reason, I'm not connecting. Yeah, Drew Gilbert on the Giants. Yep. Because they traded for Taylor Rogers, who's now in Toronto. I'm still trying to connect those dots, Ray. Nick and Yankee games always packed. Oh, Knicks for sure. Yankees. Let's see. Who did the Yankees just play last at home? They played last Thursday afternoon. When we say Yankees are packed, we're talking about close to sellout. I know they seat 50,000. So I'm just going to look at the last 3 games. They played Seattle. I mean, we know Seattle's a joke, but let's see what the attendance was. Will they have the attendance here? Of course not. All right, baseball reference it is. Standby. Yeah, I just want to see what they, because to me, they probably average 40,000, the Yankees. But if they, to me, they got to get like 48 if they are able to seat 50 in there. Which to me, that'd be packed. I mean, anything less than 45 for sure. I mean, there's empty seats littered throughout. Come on. Oh, here we go. No, we want the day before. Jeez Louise. Thank you. This is what I was looking for. August. What's today? 20th. So that's the 13th. So let's go August 11th. Yeah, I'm sure I'll get this here. All right. Stand by. All right. So the first game in that 3-game series, Seattle at New York, 41,407. So there was 8,593 available seats or tickets or whatever. So that's number one. The next game, and I don't even go to the weekend before because they had Old Timers Day, which would be interesting. 41,714. And then game 3, which was a day game, 41,842. I want to go to the weekend because they played the Braves and they had Old Timers Day, which usually that's sold out. But I'd be curious to see how many people. And, well, that was on the 8th, right? I think that was that Saturday. All right, hang on. One more time. Previous game. All right. The Friday night Yankee Brave game, which was what, the 6th off the top of my head? No, hold on. August 7th. 42,297. So they were 7,000 short of a sellout. Now, it's not empty, but when I think packed, I'm thinking close to a sellout. Now, this is Old Timers Day, the 8th. 45,222. Better. And then Sunday the 9th, 42,533. Still great crowds. But no, listen, the Yankees, I know, and I'm nitpicking the novice. I'm not trying to get at you by any means, but. Is that 46,537? I thought it was 50. Holy crap. I know, I'm sure you looked that up, or maybe you know off the top of your head, because I know you're I know you're a Yankee fan. Is that right? I thought the seating capacity of Yankee Stadium was 50,000. Or unless did they move the seats? I don't know. Move fences in, out. Oh, including standing room. 46,537. Yeah, yeah. Contract is 50K. The novice, I appreciate that. Thank you. Listen, if it's 46,000 and they see 41, 42, no, that's good. So obviously I'm wrong in that. No, and I appreciate that, the novice. You know me. I'm not one to be like, oh, no. Nah, I didn't realize it was 46. I thought it was 50 when Yankee Stadium first, but I guess with standing room, all right. Yeah, standing room up to 52,325. Can adjust up to roughly 54,000 depending on field or contrary to stage. Right, I know you mentioned 50. Which Major League Baseball stadium has the largest capacity off the top of my head? Probably Dodger Stadium. Bingo, 56,000. That was a no-brainer. Chase Field, 48,000. T-Mobile Park in Seattle, 47. Coors Field 46. Wow. Who has the smallest? Probably Marlins Park. I'm going to guess Marlins Park. No. Maybe Fenway. No, probably not. 30 teams. Oh, they're missing the stadium here. Lone Depot's 37,000, but Progressive Field 34,000 with a Guardians play. But wait a second. Fenway 37, Kauffman 37, Target Field 38, PNC 38, Petco 39. I know Citi Field is 42. I think it's 42-1. Globe Field 40. Rate Field, Chicago, White Sox 40. Comerica 41. Truist 41. Daikin Park, which is Houston 41. Wrigley 41. Oh, it's 41-922 Citi Field. I thought it was 42-1. Maybe it was standing room. Who knows? They're missing 2 stadiums here. Because they only had 28. I only see 28 listed. Then they got. Anyway, I digress. Concert 50K. Top 4 biggest stadiums in baseball are West Coast teams. Yeah, so that would be LA, Seattle. Did Petco was on that? It had to be LA, Seattle, Petco. What about Anaheim? That's an old baseball football stadium. Do I still have that list? Hold on. Yeah, based on this list, Dodger Stadium, Chase Field, Phoenix, T-Mobile, Seattle, Coors Field, Denver, Yankee Stadium, Angel Stadium. Where's Petco? Petco's 39,000. Wow, it's all the way down there. Jeez. Yeah, all the way down there. Okay. Uh-oh. An Aston Martin Aramco. F1. Uh-oh. Let's see. Not that the Jets need any controversy because... Thanks, Val. Appreciate that. I mean, Woody Johnson, what are you going to do? As if he needs more money. Yes, Bio, I agree. Good report there, Val. I mean, what do I say to that? F1 Corollas, yeah. I mean, yeah. All right, let's talk about this tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, the Sports Town Hall. Let me get the link. Oh, can I do that? Can I back out of this? Hold on. I should be able to without this. All right. Yeah, sorry about that. I had to go out to come back. Good question, Bio. I know that's been a lot of talk here recently. And how about that trade for the Mets? Now, that's not on David Stearns. That was Billy Epler. But I'll get to that in a minute. Here we go. Ready? Sports Town Hall. I'm going to send this link. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to copy and paste this. If you can, please do. That's tonight. And how we're going to do this is if you guys want to talk about a particular topic, scenario, whatever it is, bring it up. And then, we'll go one by one. We'll go around. I'll moderate. I'll start it off. I'll come up with something, whatever that may be. And then whatever you guys want, whatever you guys have in mind. So I'm sure Bio will be like, yeah, I don't like this talk about Mark Walton with the Dodgers. And yeah, we can unpack that. Fine. And we'll see what everybody else says. And yeah, I'm going to post this on my socials. I'm going to see maybe if I get my cousin JD involved. I haven't spoken to him, so I don't know. I know he's been kind of busy. But yeah, obviously for us, predominantly, I don't know if anybody outside's going to come in, but that's the link. 9 p.m. tonight. We'll have a blast. I'll start it off, and away we go. And I believe I have up to 10 people, so it's not as if I could get like 50 people. It's going to look like the Brady Bunch. But, all right, Bio, that's awesome. Now, here's the thing, going back to this. Why isn't this clicking? Yeah, this is weird. It's not clicking. All right, thank you. Your comment is not. Why that's so weird? Yeah, I'm trying to get this up on the screen here, Bio, but it's not cooperating. And I don't want to refresh this to knock it off. All right, you say PCA or Ohtani. I know Ohtani's had good numbers. I know PCA. What a terrible trade that was. Oh, my God. PCA for Javier Baez, a rental. Ugh. All right, so Ohtani's numbers this year. I know they're not otherworldly compared to years past. 30, 80, 291. Still leads in slugging and OPS. $133 hits. Yeah, I know PCA isn't. He probably has similar numbers, does he not? No, that's not what I want. Hold on, Pete Crow. There we go. 3179. Look at that. And Ohtani was 3081, right? 3179, 279. Leads in total bases, 136 hits, 128 games. Leads in WAR. I mean, I can't stand that, but I guess, the writer's going to look at that. 25 homers, 25 doubles, 7 triples, 31 home runs. So he has 63 extra base hits. Strikes out a ton, but don't they all? On base is good. Slugging. It's close. I don't know if the writers are going to be different. Unless PCA just has a monster September and Ohtani's just doing his thing. But yeah, he's going to have a monster. He's going to have to probably hit 45 home runs. 14 home runs in the next 5 weeks. Or at least get to 40. And I know Ohtani pitches, although he hasn't pitched since July 3rd. Let's see, one more time. 31, 279, 90 runs, 79. 30, 80. So he's a home run. Ohtani has one less homer and one more RBI. Pete Crow has 8 more runs scored. 12 points better batting average for Ohtani. Ohtani, 133 hits. Whoop, hang on. What is... He has 136. I know the slugging and all that. Yeah, probably Ohtani. But it's going to be close, though. And you know what's funny? I think Mizorowski's going to win I said this the other day. It's his to lose. Mason Miller is going to get consideration for Cy Young this year. He is going to get consideration for Cy Young this year. Do you know that Mason Miller, how many innings he's pitched? He's thrown 52 in the third inning. He's not given up a home run yet. His whip is .8. 52 innings, 24 hits. So that's 27 and 2/3 hitless innings. And in 52 and a third innings, 95 strikeouts. And he's 4-1, 31 saves, ERA 0.86. I'm not saying he's going to win, but he's going to get consideration. I mean, that's a killer year. He's given up 5 earned runs the whole year in 52 innings. That's dominant. That is dominant. 27 years of age. He's not a free agent until 2029. Or after 2029, which is crazy. Yeah, I'd say Ohtani. There we go. Yeah, I'd say Ohtani by a smidge. What are you talking about? Whatever's on your mind. A question, whatever it is, doesn't matter. You want to say, oh, why is Pat McAfee on every show on ESPN right now? You could say that if you want. Yes. A lot of people forget that. Oh, thank you, Val. Yeah, and then the Junior Caminero, but then also Tampa. What did they trade? They also traded somebody else and was like, whoa, and they really make bad trades. Yeah, that would be. Good one, the novice. And I think he's the front runner right now. I don't think it's Ben Rice. I mean, he's going to get consideration, but Jordan Alvarez, what do you have? 36 home runs? 36. I mean, geez, you got to give him the MVP right now. In fact, I didn't realize this. I knew he was a Triple Crown threat. I don't know what they would call this. I do not know what he leads not only in home runs and RBIs and batting average, which I knew that. He leads in on-base slugging and OPS, as well as, I'm not into the OPS plus and all this nonsense, but listen, I guess you got to throw that in there. And total bases and intentional walks. I mean, he leads every offensive category. Just give him the award now. And it'd be nice to see another Triple Crown. We saw that in 2012 with Miguel Cabrera. But I didn't realize he led in on-base slugging and OPS. I mean, he's literally, forget about Triple Crown. He's going to win the Sextuple Crown? I know it sounds a little perverse, but think about that. Has anybody in the modern day has even done that? I don't even think Miguel Cabrera did that. Or Carl Yastrzemski was the last person to win the Cy Young, the Triple Crown. Miguel Cabrera's 2012 year. Hang on. Wow, you know what's funny about that? In the Triple Crown year, Miguel Cabrera, he led in slugging and OPS, but not on base percentage. The year after, look at this year. The year he won the Triple Crown, he was 44, 139, batted 330, had a 393 on base, 606 slugging, and 999 OPS. The following year, he was 44, 137. Both stats did not lead the league, but led in batting average, 348, on base, 442, slugging, 636, and OPS, 1,078. Wait, that was 2013. Who was the MVP that year? American League. Before I even looked that up, let's switch to widescreen. He had to be second. No, he won the MVP that year. I thought so. I was going to say, wait a minute. I did not win the MVP. Listen, I mean, Miguel Cabrera on roller skates, Hall of Famer. And a lot of people forget he won one World Series. And people think, wait a minute, he didn't win with the Tigers. He did not. The Florida Marlins. I was going to look up something else, right? Hold on. Yeah, thank you, Val. I appreciate that. Jordan Alvarez, he's having a monster year. Yeah, it has to be. And he has such a smooth swing. Yeah, oh yeah. Where is, let me see, batting averages? Who's behind him in the AL? AL batting average leaders. Does he have a sizable lead right now? Let's see. Chandler Simpson. Oh, he's 8 points ahead of Tampa. Light hitting outfielder. A lot of speed. Good. Excuse me. Got a lot of speed. Listen, he's going to win going away. He's 8 points. I mean, unless he goes 0 for his next 50, which that's not going to happen. And I swear, I didn't realize the OPS. I didn't realize all that. I mean, he's going to have 100 walks, 100 RBIs. He's going to end up probably, if I had to guess, he's 36-88 now. We got 30 some odd games to go. He's probably going to go 40. I'll say like 43, 125. Maybe not 125. Maybe let's say 43, 120, and he's going to have, let's say 313. Yeah, I mean, it's not even close. Ben Rice. And you're right about that. Media's not. And look, I haven't talked about him either. I may have made a mention of him when the Astros were playing well. But yeah, I haven't talked about him having this historical year. Yeah, I know. Nobody covers baseball. I mean, again, Jordan, we know who he is. He walks down the street. You'd be like, who is that guy? Yeah, even a baseball media, they haven't. Listen, I would have run into an article or something where it's like, he's going to have the double, triple crown, whatever you want to call it. I would have been like, what? And then I did not know that. Oh, do you really, the novice? Oh, this is a good year to have. Yeah, Matt Olson's having a big year too. Yeah, who would be the NL MVP at this moment? Yeah, I don't know. Schwarber again? Or I know you said Otani PCA, but I'm just trying to think of top three. Yeah, I guess it would be Olson. $36, $77, $263. That's probably going to be the top three guys. Yeah, I don't think Schwarber. Schwarber led the league in home runs a lot, but then fell off. Yeah, 36, 77, 263. Leads in total bases for the National League. That's been a great trade. I mean, think about that. They let Freddie Freeman go. They bring in Matt Olson, who has 2 more years left on his contract. The guy never misses a game. And all he's done in the 5 years in Atlanta is at 182 home runs, 512 RBIs. All right, the average is 261. But the guy has been... And you know what? This is... Oh, my God. I can't believe I'm actually going to say this. You don't like the batting average. You like the batting average to be a little higher? I guess for this day and age, I don't see him as a Hall of Famer, but he's putting up Hall of Fame numbers. Now, he has a lot of, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's hit over 35 times. He hit 54 one year. Over 103 times. He's going to get over 100 this year, you would think. And 3 other times he was in the 90s. 91, 95, 98. Yeah, no, he's been good. He's going to be a Hall of Fame. He's 32. He's going to get another contract. Yeah, he still has work to do. I can't put him in the Hall of Fame. No, that's awesome. The novice. Oh, is that right, Bio? Yeah, I know the Yankee fans are going crazy over him, which, when he was in the Rookie of the Year race 2020, I bought a ton of them. Did you? Uh-oh, Val B. And we were just talking about him earlier. That's exactly what I was talking about when I said bad memory. You're talking about me with the bad memory? No, I'm kidding, Ray. Yes. Bio. Absolutely. 3 years, $97 million. Yeah, kudos to James Harden. Uh-oh, here we go. Ready for this? What is this? Lakers minority owner Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong not selling 4% stake. As the fight over what will happen to the Buss family's stake in the LA Lakers begins, they made that. All right. I'll read this one more time. As the fight over what will happen to the Buss family stake in the LA Lakers begins in the wake of they screwed that up. Of Mark Walter's shocking sale of his majority ownership of the franchise to Bob Iger and Josh Kushner, one of the team's minority owners has no plans to sell his part of the team. Dr. Patrick is absolutely not selling his minority, of the share. Chuck Tiger Kenworthy, the Soon-Shiong family attorney, told ESPN Thursday. Bob Iger and Josh Kushner are good friends. We'll be joining them as supportive, active, and engaged partners once they close the transaction with Mr. Walter. We're extremely excited about the Lakers' future, yada, yada, yada. Dr. Soon-Shiong bought into the team in 2010, purchasing a 4% stake from iconic Lakers star Magic Johnson. Known for his innovative cancer research and treatment, Dr. Soon-Shiong is also a successful businessman and surgeon with a net worth north of $15 billion. The 6+ siblings still own a collective 17.8% of the team after selling the majority share to Walter in a deal that was ratified by the NBA's Board of Governors in October. 5 of the siblings voted to sell their remaining portion of the team to Iger and Kushner at the $12.5 billion franchise value they paid. Jeanie Buss contesting her siblings' plan to sell. Yes, so that's what we got there. Dr. Soon-Shiong, $15 billion. All right, my guy. Oh, you're welcome there, Val. Thank you. Shams reporter James Harden. Val watching podcast, giant breaking news. I know, Val, multitasking. If my New York Knicks win the championship within the next 2 or 3 years, I don't think the city would be able to handle it. That's my opinion. Nah, I think they'll be fine. But then they're going to have their chest puffed out from here to Jersey City. Because then they're going to think it's going to happen every year. I don't think the city had it. No, I don't think so. I think that, listen, the city handled it fine, and we took kidded about how it was going to burn down to the ground. Yeah, I don't see that being the case. I read breaking news on Shams post on NBA. Oh, yeah, no, Shams. Or Shams. Val B needs to be J-Reel's show news reporter. Yes, I know. Val's on top of it. Gotta love it. Thank you, Val. Val's always sending me stuff, and I know I got to follow up with her. I've been saying that a million times, and everybody else's comments for that matter. Jacob DeGrom Hall of Famer. I say he falls short. I know he had. Listen, here's the 1 year out of Jacob DeGrom that I think would have put him in the Hall of Fame, and we'll never, ever know, because that 2021 year, if I read you his numbers for that 2021 year, he was on the verge of being better than Bob Gibson, 68, 1.12 ERA. Here's DeGrom in 2021. And mind you, he won the Cy Young in 18, 19, and in 2020, I think he was third in the Cy Young. I understand that was the pandemic year. Yes, he was third. And he was actually ninth in the Cy Young in 2021. You ready for this? I mean, look at these numbers. I look at it now, and I just would have loved to know how the season would have played out. And if he would have completed that season, got another Cy Young, he'd have to be a Hall of Famer. He'd be more or less a Terrell Davis type, but hear me out. 7-2. His ERA that in those starts, and he had 15 starts, 7-2, so he had 6 no decisions. His ERA was 1.08. Not 180, 108. 92 innings pitched, 40 hits. So he had 52 hitless innings. All right, think about that. In more of half the innings that he pitched, well more than half, he had hitless, nobody got a hit on him. 14 runs, 11 earned, 6 homers, 11 walks. And in 92 innings, he had 146 strikeouts. But here's the thing that's just even more mind-boggling. You know what his whip was? His whip was a little bit more than half a walk and a hit per innings pitched. Was .055. And averaged 14.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. If he was healthy, he would have won the Cy Young that year. He won Rookie of the Year, as you know. And the other years, he got no run support. I mean, think about it. The 2 years that he won the Cy Young, here were his records. 10-9 and 11-8. And he had 32 starts in each year. He had the worst run support I've ever seen a pitcher get, ever. Led the league in strikeouts twice. I know 1 year was the pandemic year, when he was third in the Cy Young. Led the league in ERA. I mean, but I think he falls short, though. Here's his career. If I tell you his career numbers, you're going to be like, nah, he doesn't make it. 104 and 73. 2.67 ERA, which you love. He's 2 strikeouts away. In fact, I think he pitches tonight. He's 2 strikeouts away from 2,000, which would be the second fastest in Major League Baseball history. They may put him in. I don't think they should. They may, because of that dominant stretch. And the funny thing is, he won a World Series, although he didn't pitch in the 2023 year. He pitched what? He had 6 starts, and then he had Tommy John. I think he falls short. And I get he was dominant, but he was dominant just for about a 3-4 year period, tops. The 2 Cy Young years, 4 years. It's 3.5 when you think about it. The 2 Cy Young years, the year that he was third in the Cy Young, which was the pandemic year, and the year that he pitched half a season, 15 starts, and he was a 108 ERA, and all those numbers I gave you. Other than that, 9-6, 14-8, 7-8, 15-10. And with the Rangers, 2-0, 12-8, 8-8. I think he falls short. But I can see him getting in. Former Bills Taylor Rapp signed today. Oh, Denver Broncos. All right. I said something. Oh, all right, I will. Thanks, Ray. Yes, I agree with you, Ray. That's how you feel about Ryan Weathers this year? In what way, Ray? What do you feel about him? Yeah, Ryan Weathers, he hasn't had a bad year. I mean, he's been all right. He's a 5th starter, so. What has he done? 5-7, 3-5-6. Yeah, I mean, yeah. All right. Oh, he doesn't get any run support. Yeah, I haven't watched all the starts. But yeah, there's been a lot of games that I recall, a lot of low-scoring games. All right. Let's see. Anything else I got here? Anything else in sports besides Harden? Yeah, I think that'll do it. All right, guys. So you have the link for tonight, 9 o'clock. Hit me up and let me do my wrap up and then I'll get to your comments. So that'll do it, my good people. Another episode just about in the books. As always, thank you so much for stopping by, carving out precious time out of your day to listen to what it is I have to say about the toy department of life, a.k.a. SPORTS. If you haven't done so, please subscribe, rate, review on Apple, Spotify, any podcast platform you listen to. Of course, the YouTube channel at JReels. I would sincerely appreciate that. And if you want to hit me up with any questions, comments, suggestions, and the like, you could do so at the following on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the JReels Podcast, or just JReels on Instagram, Twitter, JReels1, just a number, Twitch, JReels1, just a number, or the old-fashioned way, the JReels Podcast at gmail.com. I'll be more than happy to follow up with you guys and gals, because whether you do or do not know, there's what I love to do in the blood, in the DNA. Talking sports is birth. You already know. And as long as I sit in front of this microphone and camera, I will always continue to deliver the pain when it comes to anything and everything that's happening on the diamond, ice, hardwood, gridiron, tennis court, golf course, racetrack, boxing, ring, octagon, you name it. From my lips to your ears, from my heart to your soul, from wherever I am to wherever you are, the JReels Podcast always comes live, correct, direct, and in full effect. From the South Bronx to South Beach to South Central to South Pacific and all points beyond. Peace, love, and God bless everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. See you tonight on the Sports Town Hall, 9 p.m. You guys got the link. If you need me, just hit me up on any of the aforementioned, and I'll be more than happy to send it to you. And until next time on the JReels Podcast, on the flip, baby. Yeah, Ray, you're welcome. My pleasure. And thank you, as always, for stopping by. And I'll see everybody tonight on the flip.